I'm a 32-year-old woman, married to my husband Calvin, 34, for 5 years. We just had our first baby last year. Our daughter Harper is now 10 months old. Up until she was born, life was pretty stable. Calvin and I both work, have our own place, and we're used to doing things our way. Then came the part nobody warns you about: what happens when a new baby gives your in-laws a reason to act like it's their second chance at parenting. Calvin's mom, Denise, is 61. She's always been the type to take over a conversation, make things about her, and push her opinions like they were facts. But we didn't live close, and she never had real influence over our routines, until Harper was born. Suddenly, it was like she got a full access pass to our life without even asking. The day we brought Harper home from the hospital, Denise showed up at our door with a giant gift basket and zero heads up. She walked in, didn't ask how I was feeling, and immediately started talking about how babies should sleep on their stomachs. That turned into her rearranging the nursery to make it more functional. I walked in to find the bassinet moved, wall shelves down, and new decorations she brought from her house up on the walls. That set the tone. It became normal for her to drop by without warning, bringing boxes of baby gear we didn't ask for, correcting me mid-sentence about Harper's feeding schedule, and calling her my baby in front of guests, over and over again. I'd try to laugh it off, but she wasn't joking. Not even a little. She hated that I was breastfeeding and kept pushing formula, saying it would make things easier for everyone. I had to start hiding the pump when she came over because she'd literally roll her eyes when she saw it. She even cornered Calvin one night and asked if I was being militant about breastfeeding just for the attention. The worst part? Calvin wouldn't confront her. He loves his mom and kept saying, she means well or she's just trying to help. Every time I brought something up, he downplayed it. I wasn't looking for a fight, I just wanted him to back me up. But that didn't happen. It wasn't just visits and comments. She'd whisper things like you're coddling her too much, or babies need structure, not all this attachment stuff. She started treating my parenting as some kind of trend I picked up on Instagram, rather than decisions I made with our pediatrician. None of it was said in front of others, always in those moments where she could hide behind a smile and that passive-aggressive tone. Then came the christening incident. Calvin and I are both non-religious, and we'd agreed not to have any formal religious ceremonies. Denise knew this. Still, she went ahead and booked a church for a Catholic christening, sent out invites to some of her relatives, and then mentioned it casually like she assumed we'd be fine with it. We weren't. She didn't take no for an answer. When we said we weren't doing it, she acted like we were ruining a family tradition. She kept saying it wasn't for her but for Harper's soul. Calvin asked her to cancel it. She said she would. She didn't. The church actually called us to confirm because she hadn't followed up. That was the only reason we found out she never canceled. Things started to escalate from there. She turned one of the guest rooms in her house into a full nursery, crib, wallpaper, everything, and told us she assumed Harper would be spending weekends there. We never agreed to anything like that. Harper was barely 6 months old. I told her we weren't planning on overnights anytime soon. She told Calvin I was keeping her granddaughter away from her. When Harper caught a mild cold, Denise blamed me. She said I was being reckless with new age parenting trends. I'd taken Harper out for a short stroller walk, wrapped up in mild weather, and suddenly I was the villain. She sent Calvin links to articles about infant care and copied them into a family group chat she made up, tagging me in posts and adding snide remarks like some of these might be worth a read for new moms. She also started making digs about my own mom. Funny how Harper cries less with me than with her other grandma, she said at one point. My mom is quiet and kind and doesn't play these games. So of course Denise treated her like a threat. The final straw for me wasn't a scream match or some huge fight. It was a dinner with Calvin's extended family, where Denise casually told his aunt that I was neglecting Harper's emotional development by not co-sleeping. She said it like she was discussing the weather, in front of everyone, like it was just a given that I was doing something wrong. That was it. I stopped trying to be polite. I'd been too quiet for too long, and Denise had taken that as permission. But I wasn't going to lose it or go on some emotional rant. I was going to start fixing this in a way she wouldn't see coming. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to plan. After that dinner where Denise called me neglectful in front of Calvin's aunt, I stopped playing nice. I wasn't going to yell or start fights. That would just give her something to play victim over. I wanted her to show people exactly who she was, without me needing to say a word. The following weekend, I hosted Sunday dinner at our place. Nothing fancy, just grilled chicken, a few sides, and some drinks. I invited Calvin's aunts, cousins, and a few of the people Denise usually talked over at every gathering. I made it look casual. No talk of issues, no tension. Just family, food, and Harper crawling around being cute. Everyone showed up around 5. Denise walked in early like always, with a store-bought pie and her usual tone like she owned the place. I thanked her and moved on. Calvin helped in the kitchen while people caught up in the living room. No mention of Harper's routines. Not yet. During dinner, I brought up Harper's sleep progress, just casually like it was small talk. I mentioned how she was finally sleeping through the night, how we used a consistent bedtime routine, how the pediatrician helped us find the right rhythm. Denise jumped in immediately, loud enough for the table to hear. She said we had been co-sleeping for weeks and that Calvin told her himself. Calvin looked caught off guard. His cousin turned and asked him if that was true. He paused, then said no, that wasn't accurate. Said his mom must have gotten things mixed up. The room went quiet. Everyone turned back to their food. Denise tried to steer things back. She brought up how letting babies cry builds independence, that gentle parenting was basically nonsense, and gave me this fake little smile like she was doing me a favor. I kept it short. Just said we were following what our pediatrician recommended and it was working. That was it. No debate, just facts. Then I turned to her cousin, who's a retired pediatric nurse, and asked if she'd seen this kind of thing before, grandparents stepping in too much. She smiled, took a sip of her wine, and said she'd seen it more times than she could count, and it usually didn't end well for the in-laws. The room laughed. Denise didn't. From there, something started to shift. Calvin's aunt leaned in and asked me what our bedtime routine looked like. Said Harper seemed really calm and alert for her age. I told her about the sleep cues, the dim lighting, the quiet lob eyes. The same cousin nodded and said that was the old school method they used to recommend when she worked at the clinic. Denise went quiet, not a word through dessert. She didn't even touch the pie she brought. Halfway through coffee, she said she was feeling a bit off and left early. No scene, just grabbed her purse and walked out. No one followed her. After everyone left, Calvin said something that stuck with me. He told me he'd never seen his mom look so out of place. She was usually the loudest person in the room. That night, she barely made it through dinner, and I hadn't argued once. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse her of anything. I just let the conversation happen, gave people space to notice things on their own. The next day, Calvin's cousin texted me to say I handled the dinner better than she would have. Said it was obvious who was actually putting Harper first. I thanked her, but I didn't say much else. The goal wasn't to turn people against Denise. I just wanted them to see the full picture, and they were starting to. In the days after, the family group chat got quiet. No articles, no digs, just normal check-ins about Harper, how she was doing, if we needed anything, simple stuff. No one tagged me in passive-aggressive posts. No one acted like Denise was the gatekeeper of wisdom. She still messaged Calvin separately, but she didn't contact me at all, not even a forwarded meme. I didn't block her. I didn't start a fight. I just didn't give her the room to keep pulling the same tricks. She had to sit in the silence she created. What made that night work wasn't some grand reveal or confrontation. It was a quiet reset. People finally saw how she operated when she wasn't the center of attention. She tried to grab the spotlight and ended up showing everyone why she shouldn't have it. And the best part, I didn't have to convince anyone. She did it all on her own. The dinner changed more than just the mood in our house. It reset the tone across the entire family. The next morning, Calvin's cousin messaged me. She said I handled that night better than she would have, and that she was honestly surprised Denise didn't blow up. She wasn't the only one. The family group chat, which used to be Denise's personal newsletter of outdated parenting advice, suddenly went quiet. No more article links. No more passive-aggressive memes tagged with my name. Instead, people started sharing photos of their pets or meals, asking how Harper was doing, and checking in like normal people. A few days later, one of Denise's sisters reached out and invited me and Harper over for lunch. Just us, no Denise. She said she wanted a drama-free visit and thought it might be good for Harper to meet her little dog. We went. It was easy. No comments about feeding, no second-guessing. Just a regular lunch with someone who wanted to see my daughter, not control her. Calvin noticed everything shifting too. He said it felt like everyone had just been waiting for someone to finally set a line. That now that they saw how things really worked, they didn't feel like they had to pretend anymore. Denise, on the other hand, stopped messaging me completely. Not a single text. Not even a forwarded quote graphic. She only messaged Calvin after that, short updates, photos she thought were cute, links to recipes Harper wouldn't even eat yet. It was cold and deliberate, like she had decided she'd punish me with silence. I didn't chase. I didn't even acknowledge it. Around this time, I quietly packed up the giant pile of loud, plastic toys she had dropped off the month before. None of them were safe for Harper's age, and they overwhelmed the living room. I donated them. Calvin mentioned it when she asked about one, and apparently she flipped. Called it disrespectful and accused me of rejecting her love. I still didn't respond. With Harper's first birthday coming up, I took full control of the planning. I didn't make a scene out of it, I just handled it like any mom would. I ordered decorations, picked a park with a shaded picnic area, and made a list of close friends and family we wanted there. I didn't ask for Denise's help. I didn't tell her what I was doing. She found out when Calvin mentioned the cupcakes. She offered to buy a big fondant cake like the one she got for Calvin on his first birthday. I told her we already had the dessert planned. Simple cupcakes. Easy to eat, no mess, no sugar overload. She said it wouldn't feel special without a real cake, but I explained the cupcakes were more fitting for a 1-year-old's party. I didn't argue. I just repeated that the cupcakes were already ordered. Then she asked for the guest list. Wanted to know who was coming, what time people were arriving, if any of her friends would be invited. I told her the invites were already sent, and that it was just going to be a small group of people close to Harper. That was the end of that. What I didn't expect was the reaction from her side of the family. One of her cousins messaged me privately to say thank you for organizing everything. She said she was excited to see Harper and appreciated how calm everything had been lately. A few more of them did the same, short, kind notes that told me they saw what was happening and didn't want to be part of the drama anymore. Denise tried venting to one of her cousins about how I was cutting her out. That cousin replied that I was doing a great job and maybe she should just let me parent. Denise didn't bring it up again. A week before the birthday party, Calvin told me his mom had said she felt frozen out. He told her the door wasn't locked, but it was only open if she could respect how we were raising our daughter. She didn't respond to that. The next weekend, we had a casual family barbecue. Calvin's aunt hosted it at her place like usual. Everyone showed up except Denise. No one asked where she was. No one seemed surprised. Harper played in the yard with her cousins. People passed her around, took pictures, and helped clean up. It felt light. There was no tension, no whispering, no awkward power plays, just a normal family event. And something clicked after that. People stopped treating Denise like a center of gravity. They started showing up for Harper, not for the performance Denise used to put on around her. I wasn't trying to prove anything or win some silent war. I just stopped letting chaos walk through the front door. The more I stayed focused on Harper and stayed out of the drama, the clearer everything became for everyone else. This wasn't about revenge or putting someone in their place. I didn't want anyone cut off or embarrassed. I just stopped making room for someone who refused to respect us. And now, finally, the rest of the family was doing the same. Harper's first birthday landed on a Saturday, and we hosted it in our backyard. Around 30 people came, close friends, family, a couple of Calvin's coworkers, and cousins with kids. I kept the setup simple: soft playmats, cupcake table, finger foods, a few balloon arches, and a keepsake table where guests could write notes for Harper to read when she's older. I handled every detail. No committees, no shared planning. I didn't give Denise any opening to insert herself. She still showed up early, of course. Walked in like she was hosting. In her hands, a massive, glossy fondant cake shaped like a fairy castle, covered in gold and pastel frosting. It looked expensive and completely out of place. I took it, thanked her politely, and walked it straight to the patio table without making any kind of announcement. She lingered behind me, clearly expecting something. While I set up the drink station, she muttered to one of Calvin's cousins that first birthdays are always more for the parents' egos than the kids. I didn't respond. People heard it. No one laughed. Later, during the gift unwrapping, she handed Harper a velvet box with a tiny gold bracelet inside, called it a family heirloom, and told people she expected Harper to wear it daily. I told her we'd keep it safe until she was older, then moved right along to the next present. The cupcakes I'd ordered were displayed on a tiered stand, vanilla and chocolate, soft icing, no drama. Right before Calvin thanked everyone for coming, Denise stepped forward and said she wanted to say something too. Calvin didn't hand her the mic. He just kept it short, said Harper was lucky to be surrounded by love, thanked everyone for coming, and ended it there. Denise still gave her speech anyway. No mic, just raised her voice over the chatter. Talked about becoming a grandmother, how it changed her life, how she loved Harper more than anything. It went on for 2 long minutes. People clapped, but it was that kind of slow, polite clap that ends quick. After that, guests started cutting into the cupcakes. The fondant cake stayed untouched. Not even kids wanted a slice. At one point I saw Denise watching it, arms crossed. Before the party wound down, she made one last move, picked up a spoon and tried to feed Harper directly without asking. I stepped in, took the spoon gently, and said I'd handle it. She didn't argue, just stepped back and disappeared for the rest of the party. She left without saying goodbye. Calvin told me later she said the party made her feel like an outsider. A few of his relatives stayed behind to help clean up. One of them, his aunt, mentioned how calm the party felt compared to past family events. Another cousin said it was the first time they'd seen Harper relaxed in a crowd. Everyone noticed Denise's awkward moments, but no one mentioned her fondant cake. That day changed something. Before, it was mostly me noticing the boundary pushing. Now it wasn't just me. The little things added up, trying to steal focus, ignoring simple boundaries, making it about her. People saw it in real time, and she couldn't unring that bell. About 4 days after Harper's birthday party, Calvin's aunt called and asked if I'd seen the photo album Denise had mailed out. I hadn't received anything, so I asked what she meant. She told me Denise had sent out printed albums to several family members, a keepsake, supposedly, to celebrate Harper's first year. I asked what was in it. She said it was mostly photos of Denise holding Harper, Denise feeding Harper, Denise with Harper at various holidays. No pictures of me. None of Calvin either, except maybe one group shot where we were in the background. My parents weren't in it. Harper's actual milestones weren't in it. No first steps. No hospital photo. Nothing from her first birthday. Just Denise, smiling like she was the main character in someone else's life. One of the aunts texted Calvin asking if I'd seen the album and if it had been made with my input. Another asked outright if Denise had done it behind my back. People were confused. It didn't look like a gift, it looked like she was trying to paint a version of Harper's life where no one else existed. Calvin brought it up to her. She called it just a sweet thing and said I was being too sensitive. That was her go-to response whenever something was questioned, pretend it was all out of love, and anyone upset was just overreacting. So I responded, directly once. I told her that erasing Harper's parents and her real life wasn't sweet. It was manipulative. She didn't deny it, just said she included what mattered. That was the end of the conversation. I went to Walgreens, printed photos from the last year, and created a wall in our living room. Harper's first year, starting from the hospital, through every holiday, her first tooth, her crawling, the first park trip, her first birthday, my parents, Calvin's family, Calvin, me, everyone who actually showed up, everyone who loved her for real. We invited a few relatives over that weekend. Calvin's cousin came by and stood in front of the photo wall for a while. She didn't say much, just nodded and said, "This feels real." Denise's album felt like a weird shrine. That same day, I took Denise off the photo sharing app we'd been using since Harper was born. No more baby pictures, no more milestone updates, no explanations. Just closed the door. She didn't show up uninvited after that. She didn't call me, didn't text. That channel was gone. Calvin agreed. He said it wasn't just about overstepping anymore, his mom was trying to rewrite history, and that couldn't be ignored. Denise's sisters kept in touch with us. A few called to check in. One sent a cute book for Harper, but none of them defended the album. They knew. No one needed to say it out loud. Eventually, Denise found out about the photo wall from someone who had visited. She sent Calvin a short message, "So you're replacing me now." He didn't respond. And just like that, the version of Harper's life Denise had tried to create, where she was the center and the rest of us didn't exist, started to collapse. Not because anyone fought her, but because no one believed it anymore. After the birthday party and the photo album stunt, Calvin's family stopped pretending not to notice. His aunt called to ask what was going on with Denise. His cousin texted about how weird the album felt. Someone else brought up the birthday party and how off Denise had seemed. The quiet questions had turned into direct ones. So we invited a few of them over for dinner. Not a huge event, just the people who had started reaching out. Calvin's 2 aunts, a cousin, one of Denise's sisters, and her nephew. We didn't tell them it was for any big announcement. Just food, updates, and catching up. They came early. Harper played with toys in the living room while we brought out dinner. No drama. No speeches. Just calm. After we ate, Calvin walked a few of them over to the photo wall. He explained we'd been keeping a record of Harper's first year, not just pictures, but moments. Her first tooth, her first Halloween, the day she said dada. Everything Denise had conveniently left out of her album. I added a few examples. Like the nursery Denise rearranged without asking. The time she showed up uninvited to a pediatrician appointment. How she decorated a full nursery in her own house and assumed we'd be dropping Harper off for weekends. I pulled up a few messages on my phone, screenshots of her tagging me in old parenting articles in the group chat, the passive digs, the controlling language. I didn't add insults. No name calling, just facts, states, messages, things they could verify. Calvin's cousin, who usually stayed neutral, said, "This actually explains a lot." One of his aunts asked how long it had been going on. Calvin told her it started after Harper was born, but things had built slowly. It wasn't one big moment. It was a pattern. He said we weren't cutting anyone off. We just needed to protect our space, especially for Harper. Denise's sister sat quietly, then said Denise had always had trouble letting go. She mentioned how controlling she'd been when they were raising their own kids. No one disagreed. No one defended Denise. The room went still for a few seconds, but not in a tense way, just quiet. Then the front door opened. Denise had let herself in. Calvin had mentioned the dinner casually earlier that week, never invited her, but she showed up anyway, probably assuming she was the guest of honor. She let herself in, heard part of the conversation, and froze, an unusually bold move even for her. She heard enough to realize what was being shared, the screenshots, the wall, the stories. She stood near the doorway and said we were trying to turn her family against her. I told her she made choices, and now they were seeing the pattern for themselves. She started in with the usual story, how she was only ever trying to help, how she just loved Harper more than anything, and didn't mean to overstep. Calvin stepped in before she could spin it. He told her helping means listening, respecting, not pushing, not deleting people from Harper's story to rewrite her own version. Denise looked around the room. No one stepped in for her. Her sister stayed silent. The cousin who used to nod along said nothing. No one made excuses. She left on her own, quietly. No dramatic exit. Just walked out the same way she walked in, expecting control and finding none. That dinner wasn't meant to be a confrontation, but it turned into a moment of truth. Everyone finally saw it up close. Not in pieces, not through secondhand comments. They saw the full picture. There were no fights, no yelling, no accusations, just a table full of people who understood, finally, why we had drawn a line and why it wasn't moving. After that dinner, Denise went silent. No texts, no calls, no surprise visits. Even her usual indirect messages through cousins or group chat stopped. For the first time since Harper was born, she wasn't hovering. Weeks passed. Calvin and I noticed the difference right away. Harper's naps got longer. Her routine stayed on track. No loud toys showing up, no off-schedule feeding suggestions. The house felt normal, calm. Then the updates started trickling in. One of Calvin's cousins called to say Denise was telling people she'd been cut off for no reason, that Calvin had changed, that I was controlling everything. She painted herself as the misunderstood grandmother who just loved too much and got pushed out. But not everyone bought it. One of her sisters, who had been at our dinner, called her out directly, told her she wasn't cut out. She removed herself. No one forced her to push past boundaries, or to build a version of Harper's life that didn't include her actual parents. About 3 weeks later, Denise tried to restart things. She sent out a group text inviting everyone to a reset dinner at her house. Said she wanted to bring the family back together. No apology, no acknowledgement of what happened, just a fresh coat of paint over old damage. Every person declined, though a few mentioned they had other plans or didn't feel up for a big event. A few gave polite excuses. Others didn't respond. 2 of them replied that they weren't interested in pretending like nothing happened. Shortly after, Calvin's aunt, the one who usually hosted the family's big spring brunch, called and asked if we'd be willing to host it this year. She didn't make a big statement about it. She just said it made more sense this time. We agreed. No big announcement, no drama. The brunch simply moved to our house. Everyone showed up. Calvin's aunts, his cousins, a few relatives who hadn't been around since before Harper was born. People brought food, helped set up, passed Harper around. No tension, no weird power moves. Someone commented on how light the whole thing felt. Someone else said it was the first time in a long time the family gathering didn't feel like it was about managing someone's mood. Denise wasn't invited. Later that day, Calvin's aunt pulled me aside and said, if she ever owns it and apologizes, she can be part of this again. But not like this. She'd already told Denise the same thing, that she hadn't been pushed out. She just refused to respect the people around her. No one made a speech. No one burned bridges. The center of the family simply shifted, quietly, naturally, and permanently.